Let's take a moment to think about our wardrobes. How many items of clothing do you own that you haven't worn more than once, or even still have the tag on them? Now imagine this at a global scale. Imagine how much clothing that is bought is just wasted. This revolves around the topic of fast fashion. By creating a solid understanding of what fast fashion is, we can learn how to lessen our contributions as individuals to better our world. In order to achieve this, we will build a solid understanding of what fast fashion is, how the modern industrialized world has created this issue, and how shopping ethically can alleviate some of its impacts. So what is fast fashion? Fast fashion can be defined in many ways, but Charpeo puts it best in their 2017 article by simply putting it as the mass production of cheap, disposable clothing. And unfortunately, this issue has caused a cascade of other problems. For one, it's harming our planet. In a 2019 article, Schlossberg states that over 60% of fabric fibers are now synthetics derived from fossil fuels, so when the clothing ends up in a landfill, it won't decay. We might not think about it often, but clothing plays a huge role in pollution. Another issue that fast fashion encourages is the mistreatment and exploitation of workers. The fast fashion model comes hand in hand with sweatshops. These are factories where workers are expected to work long hours for unreasonable wages in unsafe conditions. In 2020, Leach released an article quoting Jay Kerr, who sums this up very nicely. He says, "It's a race to the bottom for who can pay their workers the least to produce the clothes the quickest and the cheapest." Now that we understand what fast fashion is and why it's an issue, let's discuss its origin. In combination, outsourcing and worker exploitation have given fast fashion its power. D. Londardo wrote in a 2021 article that in the 1970s, huge textile factories opened across Asia and Latin America. Through the use of cheap labor and materials, they mass-produced garments quickly. So by the 1980s, a combination of different American retail stores started to outsource their production. Now, only 2% of clothes sold in the US are actually produced in the US. As I mentioned before, sweatshops allow this model to thrive. Workers' rights are not prioritized in an environment that emphasizes lowering product prices in the shortest possible amount of time. Since clothing was able to be made with cheap materials and cheap labor, this expanded the market for consumers. D. Londardo also mentions in their article that the four-season model for fashion has become totally outdated. Fast fashion allows for a quicker trend cycle, thus more clothes are thrown away as they become unpopular and simply break down because they're made so cheaply. Everything is speeding up around us. We expect our clothes to be made quicker just as we expect our food to be made quicker. Both the fast fashion industry and the fast food industry function similarly. We now demand our products and services quicker than we did years prior. So what can we do as individuals to stop this issue? We must learn to shop sustainably and be conscious consumers when we are walking around different stores and making purchases. This means shopping secondhand through thrift stores. Goodwill and Uptown Cheapskate are perfect in-person shopping options, while Poshmark and Depop are great online thrift stores. We must also avoid shopping at stores like Forever 21, H&M, and Zara. These are all well-known fast fashion brands. Shopping at these stores will only further the issues of fast fashion. A shift in mindset is also necessary. We must consider quality over quantity. If we buy items that last longer, this will reduce the waste. And lastly, instead of throwing out our old clothes, you can donate them. You can search up donation sites or go to different drop-off bins near you. Now that we've discussed how to shop sustainably, let's discuss why we are doing it. And remember why we're doing it. Since we now have established a solid understanding of what fast fashion is, we can go forward and lessen our contributions to it as individuals to better our world. The mass production of cheap clothing is affecting the environment and workers. Outsourcing and overconsumption have allowed for this model to flourish. So now we must shop sustainably and be conscious consumers. So the next time you are walking through a mall and peering into different stores, try to remember the impacts of fast fashion before you make that purchase.